Started. So a big hello, everybody. Especially a big hello to Thierry, in which we have not seen since last year. So, how are things?
Yeah, everything is all right. It's nice to see you again. Well, I've seen you a bit, when I was looking up, watching your video, your
Hmm.
Monday
Our
team
Standard.
daily
meeting.
stand-up, our
Yeah,
weekly stand-up.
yeah, standard stuff. Otherwise, no, everything is all right over here.
Sounds excellent. Well, sorry. Well, we'll definitely say we missed you. So we definitely wanted to have like a team meeting at someday sooner than later. So we chose to have it today. So for the agenda, what we're going to do is do the similar thing to what we usually do at the beginning of our weekly stand-up, where we go around as a round robin and each person gives their priorities for the week. So that's the piece number one. And then the second thing is if there's any informational things that you think would be valuable to share to the team. And then we'll go and proceed on to the regular team meeting agenda. Before I do that, I usually show a high-level overview of the stats. Okay. So let me show my screen. Okay. So looking at, let's start with the bottom one first. So this one measures our ticket depth. You can see that the created issues was 27 for the past 7 days, and we resolved 34 of them. So hats off to you guys. We reduced the ticket depth by 7, which we can kind of see here why the ticket count, is in stable conditions. There's 14 pending assignment tickets in the queue. I looked at those tickets earlier today. They're not like anything like, critical or high urgency. They're just like traditional tickets. So we're doing fairly well. If you look also on this chart here, looking at the created tickets by date, you can see, it's a little bit of a slower season here in January, probably expected. We get the daily spend report, so it's a little bit lower than what it sort of typically is, or at least in Q4, but still not bad. We're still making over $1 million a day in daily revenue. But you can see, looking at the tickets, it is a little bit lower, so it gives us a little more breathing room as well as for us to focus on other projects and other optimization ideas that we have in mind. Okay, so it looks to be all over a really good and sort of stable week. Okay. So let's move to the next item of business here. So let's go through the daily stand-up. Let me stop sharing my screen first. Okay. So I'll go first. I do have quite a number of priorities on my list. The first thing that I have is making next steps on the technical support workflow. I have a meeting with the Mobi engineering managers on how the process will work to get their buy-in, and also working on getting the social and brand intelligence data for tech depth is the second priority. Then I'm going to give you a preview of the PDI process changes that will be coming into place. And then the last thing is it is quarterly TSC highlights again. Can you believe it or not? So we have to get prepared for that presentation. And then last thing is I do have a few meetings that I'll be involved in. One is with ITV. I have a couple of meetings Thursday and Friday. We're making next steps on getting them on board as a customer. And also we're meeting quite a number of new faces. Harshit and I have been invited to meet David Roman, who is the new VP of product, replacing Amit. So he's going to be the VP of product on the DSP side. And we're also meeting with a guy named Edward Yuan from Australia. He is the head of platform solutions, plus I think product consultancy or something like that. So I want to see what more details about what he is, because he wants to talk to me about what does TSE do and how we can partner with each other. So more to come on that. Okay, so those are my 5 things. Okay, so I'll say it in a high level. Technical support workflow, tech debt, PDI processes, TSC quarterly highlights, and meetings. Okay. Harshini, you want to go
Yeah,
next?
so mine is very similar to Kenny. I think he covered most of the topics. Only one thing I would add to it is the hiring update. So for the videology side, the job postings are on. It's on the career website as well as it's internally posted onto JobScore. We're just waiting for the candidate pipeline to build up so we can start screening and hiring. So if you guys have referrals, as always, please do send them our way. We are actively looking to fill in those positions very quickly. So other than that, similar to what Kenny said, tech debt. So three things for that tech debt. We want to integrate PagerDuty stats. We want to bring in social metrics, as well as we want to complete projecting highlights onto the dashboard. You've been prioritizing this, for the last week, and we'll be prioritizing this week. The only other thing is we've discussed about some architecture changes for tech debt, which I think you will go into more detail. But basically, we had conversations with the TOPS team to nail that down. So those would be my focuses for this week.
Got it. I'll share a little bit more details about tech debt afterwards. Okay, I just forwarded you guys an email, but I'll go into that at the end of the meeting. Okay. I do want to make one quick sort of emphasis again what Harsheen said, hiring. So it is official. We are officially hiring for 2 people. 2 senior TSEs, okay? And the reason why they're senior TSEs is because we expect these people, when they're hired, to jump right in and be able to support Videology, okay? So make sure it is senior, and please help us do recruit. Second thing is, we want them to be based in Baltimore because the core engineering development team of Videology is based in Baltimore. So it makes most sense for 2 of them to have them there. Also, there is the tier 2 support manager named Bryn that is also there on premise. So it makes sense to kind of have them because, he can contribute a lot in terms of mentorship. So 2 headcounts, start recruiting, based in Baltimore, senior.
Yep.
Got it? $3,000 referral, each one. So $6,000 right up for grabs. Cool. Steven.
Yeah. 3 things this week. First thing is MIS removal. I fixed some issues of the report and test case. I deployed yesterday to production. Yeah. And second thing is I'm working on the ticket with Elizabeth and Deepak about the mobile and display consolidation. Now they are looking into some of the inventory that only have MIS in display but no mobile. That caused some issues on the platform. Yeah. Third one is just tickets.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. So recap is number 1 was MIS update stuff. The second one was this project to cleanse up, we'll say, mobile and display the MISs. And the third thing is you're on the queue. Okay, got it. Himanshu, what's up on your list?
For me, I'm handling the release tonight. So post-release SQL changes and everything. Second is data cleanup on the cloud. So I'll start the implementation today, test it out on the QA environments. And once the fix is out, I just need to coordinate with David and Alvin to see if they want to push it out as a production patch or something that can go into the next release. So that's 2. And then the third one is also testing the fixes for the crawler service. There are a couple of bugs that we identified and we're trying to fix it. So that will go out as production patch this week as well. And then 4.2 is the queue, monitoring the overall queue and coordinating any tasks that can be assigned to anyone in the team. So thanks, Steven, for taking up the MIS stuff. I assigned a ticket to Thierry as well. Because he did most of the work.
Big smiley face.
And then I have some ideas for improving our monitoring and alerting on project. There's a request coming directly from Sherman around one specific job that we done for account deactivation. It probably is an opportunity for us to improve the overall framework of running custom jobs on Scribe. So I'll schedule a meeting with Sunny and Wayne to brainstorm some ideas on it this week and then figure out the next plan for that.
Okay. So your list was number 1 was code changes. You're on that for today. The second thing was the cost conservation. That Kim has executive visibility, so that's a great thing. You're testing out the patches for that. The third thing was, what was the third thing?
Crawler service.
The crawler service adds that text. Okay. The fourth thing you said was this project with Sherman. You said to fix custom jobs.
Yeah. So it basically was. So right now we run few jobs like account deactivation.
Okay.
Right. There's the couple of finance jobs. There's GDPR. All these jobs, they run as standalone Java reports or standalone Java programs. We don't have any kind of monitoring or rerun mechanism on these jobs, right? Like if we miss for a day, no one will know
Yes.
unless someone checks an alert, someone checks the emails as well and says, oh, there were exceptions, and let me reactively now try to fix it. So the idea is somehow create a framework that can dump metrics to a system like Grafana, and then Grafana will send out alerts to the team saying, hey, this job that's supposed to run daily and is a critical job has not run for a day. Do you want to take a look? So it will send out an email, or it could, that's what we want to try and brainstorm some ideas. Like, should we send out an email? Should it open a Jira ticket as a pre-to priority saying this job hasn't run for 24 hours? Because one of the criteria from Sherman was that Singtel audit team and the MOB audit team, what they want is these account deactivation job. If it doesn't run, then there should be proper alerting and monitoring of it. Like, it shouldn't be a reactive basis wherein they look at the report and see, hey, why has this job not deactivated accounts in the past 90 days or something like that.
Got it.
So just broadening the scope of it and including finance reports, GDPR, so that when external teams come to us, we can confidently say that, hey, there is alerting, there is monitoring, and if the jobs don't run, then our teams take proactive approach.
I see. Okay. So let's call that like the account deactivation / custom job monitoring enhancement, something like that. Okay, got it. There's actually a fifth thing that you brought in, at least for in our one-on-one. So I don't want to take your thunder. That's about the creative sizes, and you're going to.
Yes.
You want to talk a little bit about that? What you're planning to do?
Yeah. So you probably heard me ranting about adding ad sizes and so many files that we need to add or edit when we add new ad sizes. So I'm going to have a chat with Hannah about this and see how we can improve the system. Either help give them suggestions on what they could do to improve the configurations, or if there's not much progress on that side, then maybe our team can take up some work around that, like some custom project that we can do to ease our pain at least, so that when we are configuring, because what's happening right now is every engineer that works on these creative ad sizes, they come up with their own configuration list, and since they don't have to maintain it, they don't think about the long-term impact of having so many configurations, because right now we have, I think, 5 files, and each file has 4 lists. So it's kind of getting out of hand. There has to be a better system to efficiently maintain it. So either we do it, or at least we start the conversation with them and product, see where it goes, and then if it doesn't go anywhere, then obviously think of resolving it ourselves. And I have some ideas on it, but I just don't want to pitch it before they tell us if they're going to do it.
Yes.
But that's about it.
Okay. Great. So I just wanted to call that out for Himanshu. So thank you for doing that, for taking a lead and, finding this opportunity in which we can improve, because we want to sort of minimize the complexity for adding new creative sizes, because that is a TSE task. Okay. So thank you for that. Sunny, go ahead.
Okay. Last week I released in Centaur the ability to create audio MIS. And now I'm working on a feature request from Surendra on that. They want a UI in Centaur to add a map market to social network ID. So I think that's for connecting from the DSP side, social side for reporting.
Okay.
I think that's one aspect of it. And so I completed the code for that. I just need to add a medium test. After that, so I put that as high priority, thinking that would be quicker than doing the big contract deprecation.
I see. Okay, got it.
Because I think that would take longer, so I did that.
Okay.
So I think I can go back and start on that tool
after
this.
Okay, great.
And then if the queue gets higher, I can jump in.
Got it. So first of all, thank you, Sunny, for rolling out Audio Channel. We have Audio Channel support now for the business, and it's Media Channel 8, right? Yes. Is the MIS and MMS tools set up to support that for rollout?
MMS is not yet.
Not yet, but
on alpha, I don't know what they want to set up as defaults.
Okay, yeah. So would requests be coming our way soon for rolling out MISs and from Jennifer? And
what inventory sources?
Ads Wiz.
Okay.
There's,
So it's
yeah,
just one.
I don't know if it's audio only, but I found out as I was testing this that we had to actually see Centaur because audio channel is new, right? So when you open a new MIS, it does some query to see what existing inventory and media channel MIS we have today. But since we don't have any, so found out you need to seed it. So I created
got it. Yeah.
created a fake MIS
I see,
that started
yes.
and ended, and so now you can see AdWiz show up.
That makes sense.
So I asked the question to EM and see what other inventory sources do they expect, but I think they're in alpha. I don't think they can answer that question.
Got it. Smart, Sonny. Thank you for that because, yes, I remember in the tool when I was working with Matthew in the mock-up, we always had a base inventory source for each of the existing channels, but this is a whole new channel altogether, so that's added complexity. So thank you for, managing that. That was not that easy. And you said your priority list was number one was your Deepak project of social and DSP, and then that's your first priority, and then your second one is the deprecation data contract project, and then the queue. Cool.
And if spend some time on that, the reporting alert framework,
Reporting alert
For
framework.
monitoring enhancement.
This the custom job account deactivation. Okay, partnership. Okay, cool. You go ahead.
So my first priority this week will be bringing the PagerDuty stats onto the existing dashboard. So we had a meeting with Knock yesterday, and we are planning to take the stats from their team every Friday, and then put the stats onto our dashboard because in the short term they don't have an existing field to indicate which component for each alerts or incidents belongs to. But in a long term, I think they are planning to put that component fields into their alerts on PagerDuty, so we can use the PagerDuty API directly. My second priority is we need to move because our project is growing like larger and more complicated than our initial expectations. So we had a meeting with TOPS last week, and we're planning to move to Django. So that means I need to set up the environment and also do some code changes. And the third priority will be to moving to Django. We also need to figure out how to do the auto deployment. So currently we are just doing the SCP into the server. Of course, that is not ideal for a larger project. So we need to figure out how to do the deployment. And that's it.
Got it. Okay. So you basically, to paraphrase, he has at least 3 critical pieces as part of the next steps for tech debt in which we need to iron out. I'll get into more details about the tech debt afterwards, but it is convoluted, as what he said. Okay. Let's just try. Let's move on to Wayne. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So I'll keep it short. First off, there's been a few new Scribe reports that came in recently. Some I worked on, like Rohit had one, and then he said, let's work on this. I did. We never got feedback from the client, so it just was sitting pending. I eventually put in a follow-up and just closed it out and said, tell me if or when MasterCard ever actually wants to turn this on. There's been a couple like that recently, which is kind of weird because usually clients don't go to all the trouble to, go through this process and then eventually get to green light, and then they just we don't know. So that's kind of weird. There's a few more in the queue that I took, and that kind of leads into number 2, which is I'm going to be working later today with Oktar and Mark. We're going to have a live BlueJeans, and hopefully it works better than it does right now. To be honest, you guys are all real blocky, and I know my audio and video has dropped out here a couple times, so hopefully it works better. Maybe we need to reboot the system. But work with them live at 6 or 7 my time, and we're going to do at least 1, if not 2, Scribe reports to actually do a full soup to nuts setup and actually produce a test file. And then of course we can't actually I can't actually get green light from a client, so I'll show them the things that would happen if we need to adjust something and how we eventually fully enable the thing. But we'll be doing that today, and that was something that Akhtar had mentioned, and I have gone over that previously with him, but Mark hasn't seen it, and so it just seemed like a good opportunity just to kind of do both. Another thing I'll mention is that the API is starting to kind of warm up. You may or may not have seen a few API tickets coming in. I tend to take them, or Ross sometimes assigns them to me. We recently enabled the API for AdGeek, and we've also enabled DataMine for AdGeek. So they are definitely like growing. That's market 658. That's definitely like I don't know. It seems like they are getting more involved in our platform and have more plans in the future, which is great. And then Dream Arrow, which is already a big customer of ours in Japan, like the largest or second largest market in Japan as far as advertising goes. And Dream Arrow has been trying to work with the API, but it seems that there are some challenges in just kind of understanding the perception of like what an API is. Because, for example, our old API was essentially unchanged for 3 or 4 years, but there were lots of bugs and problems. And now Ross and this team are really fully engaged, and they're getting the API to a place where it's actually usable for people. And then we're hearing from people like Dream Arrow that don't really have API developers on staff saying, hold on, we don't have the resources to change our code this much, essentially. So we're getting a little pushback from people that don't really necessarily like, it's like kind of educating the customer and like, well, the API, like you're going to need more resources. And so anyway, there's some kind of customer education that Ross and Karan and others are doing. And then so as a result, there's some API tickets coming in that just kind of reflect some of that. Questions around, what do you mean this just changed? I thought, like, what do you mean I have 90 days to change this? And it's like, well, yeah, we're giving you a 90-day notice. With the console, things change, and they just get changed next week because it's a bug or a fix or an enhancement, and we don't give you 90 days notice. And so there's just some, like, kind of, there's just been some challenges around the technical and the customers and things and expectations and things. So that's why I was kind of mentioning it to you guys. Anyway, the last thing I'll just say is that, the partnership with Himanshu and Sunny on improving our monitoring and alerting mechanism around non-scribe failures. Because I don't know if you've been noticing, but we haven't had really a lot of issues generally with scribe jobs for quite a while. And so we need to find a way to get similar monitoring in with the non-scribe jobs. There's not very many of them, but there are a few, and they are important things. So.
Okay. So you are part of this what we said, account deactivation custom job?
We're just going to do some brainstorming, see.
We're just going to do some brainstorming, exactly.
It's not the beginning of the project.
Oh, okay.
We're not just going to spend too much time on it.
As in, okay, sorry. Okay, got it. Okay, got it. Got it.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So you mentioned 4 things. Okay, I believe number 1 was you have scribe tasks to do. The second one is scribe mentorship with the Australia TSCs. Third thing was update about this API. There's a customer education piece. We moved to API version 2.0, but they don't have the resources to get it to API 2.0, but we need them to be API 2.0.
Exactly.
Last thing, what you said about the custom jobs, the brainstorming session, what we can do.
Exactly.
Well, okay, last but not least, Thierry. Hi.
But for me, it's quite simple. I just try to handle the queue of tickets as much as I can to keep it down low, and basically I work only on the queue, and I have a lot of tickets that are just pending, which I need to follow up absolutely, because in engineering it doesn't seem to come back really to me quite often. And a few things to solve. And actually, I have we had a quick chat with Wayne probably an hour ago about the GDPR script, because I ask Wayne. I ask quite often, in the middle of the afternoon, for him to review my scripts so I can run those scripts before I go home in the evening. and the GDPR script where we set the category sensitive or non-sensitive or blah blah blah. We think that we don't need any review for that anymore because it's been developed in a way that is so simple. Basically, we just insert the category on the top of the script. We just have to insert the right category in the right place, basically, but after that, nothing can really go wrong, So we were on the side of saying we don't need any SQL review for this sort of stuff. So I don't know if you guys would agree for this sort of stuff. Because it's a bit of
Is that okay? Yes.
Agree, yeah.
Agree? Yeah. Self-review, self-execute. Yeah.
I've been doing that myself.
Good,
Yeah.
excellent. And I just wanted to know because what I've seen as well lately, we had some tickets, quite a few where client were asking, why do we have a difference in the count or cost between the console and the reports, for instance. So we know that the data does not come from the same place and blah blah blah. We can have a bit of discrepancy. Usually, basically, the console match the data mined, but the reports are a bit off. So, Kenny, probably, do you have Kenny or Wayne actually? Do you have any input about the reporting team? Because I know that there is a lot of work to do on reports, and I don't know if the work that has to be done also aim to sort of reduce these kind of discrepancies.
Mm-hmm. Let me start by giving a bit of details about this, and then I want to ask you guys if you guys know. So yeah, Terry got a ticket where there's a discrepancy by I'll just use absolute values. It was $1,000 on the report center, but $1,050 on the console. So it's about $50 difference. It is Australia, but even that, it's like a 5%, so we can't allude it to currency exchange. So that might be out. So we're just trying to figure out, okay, from the reporting side, who should we reach out to? I think it's either the app side or the reporting side. To me, it feels like it's Kevin Pang's team more so than Tree, but that's where we're a little bit lost here. So if you guys get something like this, what would you do?
What reporting is it?
What report? What do you mean? Oh, it's a custom campaign report where they ran they checked the console data. Is it impressions? Or was it just the columns of impressions and costs, right? So it's not like those viewability or those secondary columns.
I think I would run a data mine query as well.
We did that, yeah. What was the result of it?
We do that. So that's, but time and time again, we have to get back to the client. And, for me, it's always like, you guys, if you want to have the right information, run a data mine query. But that's the technical answer. We need a user-friendly answer. The simple question, if I would be the customer, I would say, why do we have a difference?
Yeah.
And we always say, yeah, but we have a cache there, we have the right information there.
Yeah.
So my next question would be, why don't you sync up? You know what I mean? Why don't you do something to have something that match 100% or very, very, very close to 100%?
Let me rephrase this in a different way, the question in two pieces. I could be answering two separate questions. If you're asking it, how do we as TSCs do the education piece on this and why it's different? I think our answer to that is yes, this is the way our system is designed, two separate pipelines, and it's in a contract where we say that there is a clause that says these could not match precisely. So that is the answer piece, although I know it's, as a person to express this, I don't feel that comfortable, but it is what the contract says. So we're just sort of being the communicator. We're relaying it. If you're asking the question where it's how do we get engineering to look into this a little bit more and who should be the first point of contact? So that's question number 2. I think for this one, it would be more so, I think I would ask for Tree, I would say, on this one, because ultimately we're trying to get the smart query that gets that data, and then we can work downstream. I think that's what my answer is. I would just start with Tree or Raymond.
So data mine matches console?
Does data mine match console, Terry, in the case?
Yeah, usually
it is. It's the report center.
Yeah.
It's the report center that is the odd one, right? Usually.
So yes, Yes, you correct.
Okay.
And but the thing is, even though like you say rightly, Kenny, we have that in the contract.
Yeah.
We have this sort of stuff. You know, me, I'm talking about the technical point of view. Is there
Yeah.
anything we can do? Not
Right.
us as TSC,
Yeah.
as engineering.
Yeah.
If we could, can we improve this sort of stuff? Is there a project on the way to do that or not?
Right.
So,
Can I
That would be my
You want-
personal
quick
question.
So, Thierry, I have a quick comment on this one because you mentioned Australia, and this was the same issue Akhtar brought up in the last stand-up. So, the different discrepancy on the issue that he mentioned was actually even more. It was around like $200, $300. I don't recollect the exact amount, but it was significantly more. So he had the very same question of, what do we do in these kind of discrepancies, especially when they've already evaluated that it's not a currency exchange issue. So I think there is a possibility that we could combine efforts there because you have an issue, Akhtar has an issue, so we already have multiple issues as I see it. So why don't we consolidate that? I would say just send a note to Akhtar and then we can combine those two tickets and then we can send it to the engineering team saying this is a trend that we're seeing, especially with Australia. And given that both are from the Australian region, there could be really something that's going on with the region specific and not really to do with the general framework case that we're trying to address.
Yeah.
So that would be the next steps on this, as I would suggest.
Okay, so basically what you suggest is to gather information in order to push engineering to get a better result. Am I correct?
Correct. And we have two cases. So I would stress upon that. And I would sync up with Akhtar also because I know he reached out to people in engineering as well. So we could just combine both and get it addressed in one go, yes.
Would you have the ticket number off by chance? Or
Yeah,
can you
I
ask
can
it
bring
after?
the Akhtar
How about our next
on
steps,
that.
Thierry? After us, we get into a small thread, we exchange the TSC ticket numbers and see if it's literally the same thing.
Right.
And then we take the next steps from that onwards. How's that?
Okay.
Sounds good? Okay.
Right now, I don't have a ticket because either they've been closed or stuff like that, but I had a quick chat.
I have one. I have one right now. Right? I think Kenny, you and I were talking about it yesterday. That was off by a couple $100. So I have one right now like that. So.
Okay, let's start a thread. Like as I said, I'll just start a thread, and then you guys chime in with your tickets, and then we can consolidate that package it to engineering.
Great.
I'm not sure if I can give you any ticket number tonight because I had something. No, actually there was not a ticket yet. I had a discussion with Faye over here for ManOps, and she was raising a question to me today. And of course, I said always exactly what we were talking about 2 minutes ago. There is always a kind of discrepancy. We all know, blah, 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 because of this or that. That was not major. But probably what I would tell her is to open a Jira ticket for that case. So we could simply have something in hand, one more ticket to give to engineering, if that's okay to you.
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. Great. And thank you for Thierry, because I know that you've worked, well, everybody works long and hard, but you're on the queue and you take quite a bit of tickets from all different regions.
Like I said, because you guys, you're more able to work on project because you're close to the engineering and same time zone and stuff like that. So you do your stuff. You can concentrate on project, and me, I try to do my best on the ticket queue to ease a bit the queue for you guys as much as I can, because sometimes it's quite difficult. And I must say, I'm glad to have Wayne as well, which does also quite a lot of tickets. So that's good. Yeah.
And I think the Baltimore hire will help you, Thierry, because they will be in early. So they will be having a good overlap with you and Wayne. So
Yeah.
Are they going to be working on DSP side stuff?
So they will start with video, Amobi TV especially to start with. But after that, once they start, I expect them to work on all kinds of tickets similar to other TSCs.
Awesome. So let's move on. Not that much time left, so I will give you sort of a preview of what's going to be changing in PDI. Okay. Let me give you some background information first. So I sent this email like last Friday. So what the next step is on this PDI is all of you guys, as well as engineering managers, will be getting a weekly report on all PDI issues, PDI tickets filed in the past week. It's going to be sent every Friday evening at like 7 p.m., I believe, PST. So looking at all that tickets. As I was looking at these tickets, though, I was trying to see like what, how could we make this most impactful for in terms of assignment and more or less getting them resolved, right? So I was looking at the current state of how they are and what we do, like we currently assign to engineering owners, and I realized there's actually not always component fields or sometimes labels not included there. So for people that are not that tenacious, they might not, care and might just drop it. So how do we avoid those opportunities, right? So this is where I want to propose these changes, okay? By sort of enhancing, see what we can do in terms of adding the more appropriate logging, which we can do sort of direct focused attention for execution on those PDI tickets, okay? So why the change? I mentioned it earlier, so these are some new points. PDI project, now that we are a combined company, we want to have some sort of ubiquitous process of how we file bugs in the organization. And it makes sense to have them all go into the PDI bucket. Currently, brand intelligence and social, they don't use theirs. They have their own ways of doing it. And videology as well, they have their own distinct projects. It makes it hard for reporting, so it makes more sense for everybody to adopt to PDI. Okay. And under the existing process where we use currently engineering owners, if we were to still use PDI for the expanded company, there would probably be at least 15 managers on the alias. So it makes it harder for which specific manager to know which ticket is theirs. Okay, so that's why we need to do some changing on it. And also, since there are 15 engineering managers, if they're all added as watchers to the ticket, then they're going to see all the tickets and the commenting of all the updates of the PDIs. So for example, if I'm Yantao and with this new process, that I'm added to a videology ticket, I got to see all the 20 comments of it. I'm just talking about just one ticket, right? You can see how much extra noise it's going to cause that way. So this model of engineering owners in which we currently have is just not scalable with this combined company. Okay. So this is where the proposal is. So we're going to add one new field, I should say, to the PDI tickets, and it's going to be PDI team. Okay. And so let me show you an example of this one here, PDI 3. So let's look at this ticket here. It's a PDI 3415. There's going to be a new column here called PDI team. Okay. And the options in this team is exactly the same options as the components in the TSC field. Okay. So some of you guys might ask, well, why did you create a new field, PDI team? Because we have components that we could use already. Well, I thought about that. The answer is that because component is already kind of used in many other projects already. You can see that there's 97 of them that have been chosen. And it's also free form, so anybody could be creating more at any single point in time. So when it comes to us trying to choose the field, we could potentially be choosing the wrong one. And also it is cumbersome by choosing from a list of almost 100 right now. That's why it probably makes more sense to have a PDI field in which we own ourselves, and it is a fixed list. So it's not like you have to type in the field letters, you choose from the dropdown. So when there are new components in which we have to, reach out to those teams on it, when brand intelligence comes into play for this, for example, we will add this there. So the list will be updated for us. Okay. So you can see for this example here, we chose console. Okay. Because this specific ticket, I should have backtracked. This is discrepancy between IO budget, actual spend, and console advertiser invoice. So that is a console issue. The TSC ticket is from console too. Okay, so that's one change. Okay, make sure you add this so that it directs the right engineering owner to take action on that.
Are we still selecting components?
You guys can do what you guys want. Honestly, I don't even know what you guys, sometimes you do, sometimes, not you as in yourself, it's done or not, because usually, actually I want to open up this question. Usually what I've encountered is that most of the time, TSEs, for us, when we file PDI tickets, there is no component in there, just from the stats, because I would see that there. And I think the reason why is because when we work on a TSE ticket and we realize we need to clone a PDI ticket, we do that first. And then we put those fields in the resolution tickets. At least that's what the reports are telling us. That is what our sort of habit is. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to change you guys' habits.
So that field is not going to be on TSC ticket, right?
What field?
PDI team.
PDI team is not, no.
Okay.
It's going to be on components, yeah. So that's why it's this way, yeah. Ultimately, my goal was to use components, but you see why I cannot do that, right? Well, actually, I can do that, but you're going to be selecting among a list of 97 that can grow. So not clean, right? Okay. So the question about whether or not you want to continue or use a component, up to you guys, but it looks like we're not even using it right now when we file PDI tickets. I don't want to force anything, you guys. It will help though, let's put it that way, if you want to. If you want to do labels, be my guest. But the core need is TSE.
Unrelated question. What is that SUP?
SUP, where?
Just above PDI team.
It's just
Is that us?
That's them.
Yeah.
That's not us. That's them.
Okay.
So they have their own processes too. That's where, and I'll be honest with you, they also have a field called team as well, and it's all their stuff. So it's kind of like lots of different fields, I will say. Mm-hmm. So more or less these are things in which are outside our domain. What we have is a PDI field. We're going to tell them what we use the PDI ticket for, and we're doing it because you heard from the TSC quarterly highlights, they do not like the engineering owner continuation. So this is the solution for them.
Yeah.
Yes. I see what maybe some of you guys are thinking, can we make better
I didn't
use?
know there was a team field.
Yeah, there is a team field too.
Okay.
In fact, the team field was chosen, right?
And we thought about that as well.
Yeah.
But that one is actually overwritten by engineering. So, for
Yes.
example, if they want to move their projects into JibJub, for example,
Yes.
they would just overwrite whatever you put in there to JibJub and take it
Yes.
away. So it doesn't quite align with our list of teams.
Kenny,
Yes.
when is that gonna take effect, basically?
Right. Wait for an email. I'm still playing around with this just to make sure this all works. You can start it now, okay? Because I'm quite confident that this is the way to go because this is what's on my plate right here. I'm trying to get visibility of all the engineering owners to be able to see all the PDI tickets for transparency, but at the same time, not to disrupt them with too much emails. So I'm trying to figure that out, and I have to do it pretty quickly. So that's why I've chosen this step to do. So go along with it. So my ask for you guys is to do the PDI thing. Okay. It won't hurt.
Are you going to talk about the assignee?
Yeah, that's the second thing. Yes, correct. So that's one thing. Point number 2 is and I hope as I'm saying this, you guys see why I'm doing this, okay, and why we're doing this. And I've thought about it quite heartily, Harshini as well. Second one is assigned to specific engineering manager, okay? So in lieu of assigning to engineering owners and hoping that the right person will eventually take it from the assign it to their own team, try to assign it to the specified engineering manager of that component or the engineering developer if you know it. So for example, in cases where you worked on Power Edit and you add on a TSC ticket and you consulted Ben and Ben said file the ticket, finish it off and just assign it to Ben. No need to assign it to like his boss, like if it's Sherman, right? No need for that. But in those cases where it looks to be like a runtime bug where it's like Digital Envoy needs some sort of change or something like that, I'm just making a hypothetical example. And let's say that, okay, we didn't know that it was Sam Lenard. Let's say some of you guys didn't know that. Then in those cases, you would probably assign it to Daniel Liu. Okay, because at least you know it falls under his domain. Okay. Do you guys see? Or another example where there's something about with applied science, okay, this thing is not pacing right, and you didn't consult with anybody in AppSci, but we know it's someone in AppSci, then you give it to Rick Wren. Okay? So let's play with this. We will be getting like a weekly report, so we're still playing this. So if you want to be part of the beta phase, by all means, I actually encourage you guys to do that so we can see how it's going to go. So that's where we are. We're sort of in beta, and then once we get all this sort of processes sort of structuralized, it looks good, then we'll make it official to follow this. Okay. And the last part here, what I want to say is, what are the benefits of doing it this way? So number one is it accomplishes what the engineering owners did want, where they don't want to be blasted with too much noise. We will still give them a weekly report of all the PDI reports filed, like this. So it will contain the entire list. That will be for transparency and visibility amongst the teams. Okay, that goes in hand with the tech depth scores, which I'll talk about briefly afterwards, where we have tech depth scores of showing the weekly trends of what team is doing in terms of tech depth, which measures the quality of code. So the more bugs would naturally be the scores being higher. So there will be alignment in the story. And then it also helps for the visibility for the specific engineering manager themselves. For example, me, let's say I'm Sherman, for example, I could see the weekly PDI report list. I will be able to see all the PDI tickets filed related to console, see the priorities of them, and see the statuses of them. And that will give me indications whether I need to take action if things are not moving along in the right pacing. Okay. So any questions on this so far? No? Okay. So I'll say let's try this. I will send this out as an email, these sort of next steps, and we're in beta phase, and let's get that done. Okay. So on to the tech debt. I just want to spend a little bit of time introducing this to you. So I forward this to the team. Okay, so tech debt will be a measure used in the company, specifically by the engineering team, which will be a metric leveraged for measuring the quality of the software code in which we ship to our customers. So it will be a weekly trend report. And it will contain every single engineering component team in the organization. Okay. And to use point, we are still waiting for like social and brand intelligence, and he has to do, since they're on separate APIs, because we haven't merged to one combined Jira yet, he has to have different distinct access points and marry the data together and make it consolidated. So that's what he's working on. So all these different engineering components, and we get to see weekly trends of what you're doing. Ultimately, we want each team's scores to go down, ultimately to as low as possible. Okay. So you can see from here, looking at this, that the past week, we actually did much better than the week before in terms of the engineering quality score. Okay. So I'll say just have a look at that. I don't want to spend too much details because I know you probably will have like questions related to that. But separate into the overall tech debt metric, which includes pager alerts, it includes manual tasks, and it includes bugs, as well as any sort of P0 incidences or war rooms. Each of these have specific points that contribute to the score. Okay. And then the bottom here, you can see manual tasks that you can see here. Okay. Just as a side note about this, Shovik absolutely loves this report. From hearing my boss, Michael Manham, he's in the meeting with Shovik, of course, with his, and they talk about this. And they talk about, oh, what has changed here? Hey, how come, runtime, it's high. Oh, what happened in runtime? Yenta, what happened in runtime? How can we sort of fix that, right? And then we have the stats here and the tickets that sort of references our stuff. Granted, remember, TSC tickets is just one element of the score. There's also pager as we said, and there's the war rooms and the manual tasks too. So at least we provide the stories for them. And this is supposed to drive positive discipline so that we can enhance quality. Because when we want, if there's opportunities to enhance better quality of code and we're making actions for that, why don't we do that, right? Yeah.
Manual tests, those the numbers, they don't take into account hours, right? They just look at number of tickets.
Hours. What do you mean by hours?
How long do we spend?
Oh, hours, as in time-wise. Yeah. No, for now, that's a good question here. So we just put everything, if it took a couple hours or a quick win, we attribute the same flat rate score of 10. I think we're still comfortable with that for now. Ultimately, we might change it on that, but let me give you some background. We did an assessment on before we thought about should we count it by hours or instead of just a flat rate score. We just did like a holistic average. Usually most of the tasks fall under like a 2 hour if we had to like name an average. So we thought we'll just assign an average score of that.
Yeah.
Makes it easier that way because that makes it hard. But if this does not align right, granted it's a work in progress, make sure, okay. We're near the tail end, but it's still like, we're working the ons and ends out. If we feel like we need to change it to an hourly metric instead, then we will. But now our first goal is to get all the stats in there of our combined company, social, brand intelligence, videology, and turn. Yeah, so that's where we are. But it is making great headlines, you guys.
Are the executives asking why there are so many tasks that our team has to do?
Yeah, so if you want to scroll down a little bit. So along with that, we also have to provide highlights. So week over week, we would do some kind of an explanation as to why the trend is higher or lower on specific components. So that is to give them a direction on what has changed. And to add to that, we already shared the Jira ticket filter, so the engineering managers can go into it and look at that themselves to figure out what changed. So for this week especially, I think if this is the most recent exit metric, I think we did mention, like if, Kenny, I think you might have to scroll down a little bit. Or in the highlight section, So we said, we already said console tops the list in terms of TSC tickets due to increase in GDPR-related tasks as well as intermarket syndication requests. So that is kind of an indication as to why console score increased or decreased. So we do give them some insight as to what happened.
So I think this makes positive headlines. For example, that if there's more manual tasks that we do, like these are common, I think everybody can agree the volume of this that we have. Now we just made a dent in it and say, look, this is what TSC is spending our time on. We can continue to do that, or would you like us to do better things? Sort of like this optimization project, this custom job, account deactivation.
My question was, till now, have we got a feedback asking why we're doing so many console tasks or how we are doing so many console tasks or what is the
I've gotten some feedback from Sherman already, yes.
Okay.
He asked, what is that? Yeah. Like, why is that? But at that stage, we didn't give him the Jira filter. So now this is the first week in which we gave him the Jira filter. But there's more. There's more to come. Let's put it that way. Actually, if we have a bit more time, I'll show what you has been doing, if that's okay. We'll show you what you're doing, and we'll show you what our sort of end vision is, because I'm pretty excited for that stuff. So this is what you is working on, because ultimately we want this automated. No need to write like doing it manually week over week. So ultimately, it will be a nice, beautiful dashboard like this, which will include the headlines at the very top. Okay. It will show the week-by-week scores, and there will also be links. Okay, so you can see there's different columns or charts of bugs and production issues and the task and the score weights. We're also going to add some links to each one of these so that anybody can go in, like dig into these and see what contributed to the scores. And if we see some trends in which some elements or some tasks are always contributing to scores, that is an opportunity for change. Because isn't automation better than manual, repeated, redundant tasks? Anyone would say yes, right?
Right.
So we're going to provide the dashboard and the visibility with the links that will generate positive change. So that's what the purpose of this dashboard is. If we were to stretch this even further, this is my boss is saying we could actually add more things in terms of like what's our actual spend versus projected spend, and that could give an indicator as to like, okay, there's opportunities in which we could try to get more money, like customers are giving us the budget schedules for it, but we're not spending. That could drive even more changes. So he has other ideas like this. Call it like the revamped version of like trustautomobile.com with all these dashboards. So that's what's long-term stuff. Okay.
Are the scores still, we look at it as relative to what happened last week, relative to other projects. We're not going to look at it like, oh, if it's up above 50, that means it's bad. Or if we're not going to ever look at it that way. Will we ever grade it like absolute scores, meaning, oh, that's a red, you shouldn't be above that number?
I think if the total score is, if the total score is say 1,000, right, that already says that there's definitely scope for improvement, because eventually we all know that it cannot get to zero, like it might not get to zero, but at the most it's the shared responsibility to strive to get that score as low as possible. So I would say that if console had decreased by 100 points, but it still tops the list, it's still saying something that I'm again still on the top of the list, though I just managed to reduce 100 points.
Yes.
So that dashboard is available to everyone, right? The one that you were just showing.
Isn't it supposed to everybody?
So you
The
have
executive.
shared that link to
Not to
us
us,
internally.
like executive.
It's not shared with the exec team yet, because we're still working to get it to that end vision that we have, at least phase 0,
Yes.
before we actually go share it with execs.
Yeah.
So they've seen it in various flavors, like Kenny's shared it with Banham to over his one-on-one and showed it briefly to Shavik, but that's about it.
My suggestion to you guys, take a look at that email because it's fresh to you guys. I forwarded it so you can see who it's being sent to currently. Take a look at this. Let's do a regroup and follow-up questions. But I hope you see the inspiration of it. And actually, honestly, maybe you guys have even like ideas that we haven't even thought about all this time. So I would love to hear your feedback of what we can do. Okay.
Yep.
Let's do that. Cool. Okay. So we're almost at the hour mark here. So was there any other closing things anybody wants to speak before we adjourn?
No.
No, we're all good? Okay. So just to recap, PDI process, I will send that out. It is in beta phase. I encourage you, it's not mandatory, but I encourage you to use that. And there might be chances of fine tuning, but probably not, because I think we're fairly confident this is a working solution. Okay, let's work that and let's get those PDI tickets, executed. Perfectly. Yeah. Cool. Okay, thank you guys. Have a wonderful day.
See you. Have a good day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you guys.
Yeah.
Here.